Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Noor Networks. In this tutorial, we will be configuring user-based authentication firewall rule. So before we proceed with our configuration, let me recall what we have done in our previous tutorial. In our previous tutorial, we have integrated Active Directory with our Sophos XG firewall and imported the users and groups from Active Directory to Sophos XG firewall. Before we proceed, let me give you a brief about what we are going to do today. So you can have a firewall access rule that require authentication to access the internet or various network resources. So in short, we will be creating a firewall rule using authentication. Since we have integrated an Active Directory, we will be authenticating you through a Active Directory users. Furthermore, we will be authenticating through a local users means through a user which will be creating on a Sophos firewall itself, the local user. So our idea is like whenever you are using a computer, let me take you to the network design very first. Over here today, what I have done is we created Active Directory. Okay, I will be putting this link in the description box that how you will install Active Directory and promote a server to a domain controller, how you will create organizational units, users, groups, how to assign a user to a group. All this thing I will be putting in a description box where you can have a hands-on lab if you don't have a much more exposure to Active Directory. Additionally, I have added this computer with the IP 10.1.1.150, that is a client PC1, to the domain. Let me show you. I am on the same machine. Okay. So first of all, I will show you the IP configuration. So on this machine 10.1.1.150/24, the DNS server which I have given is 10.1.1.50, that is Active Directory IP, and the secondary DNS is Google DNS 8.8.8.8. And let me show you that this particular machine is added to a domain that is nonetworks.com, which we have created in our last tutorial. I will just log in through administrator account. Okay. So if you will see that this particular machine with the IP 10.1.1.150 is in the domain nonetworks.com. Let me close this. Then we have a PC2, that is client PC2 10.1.1.100. Let me take you to that PC now. And over here, I will show you that this PC is not in the domain. The configuration is same. The primary DNS have given over here also 10.1.1.50 and secondary is Google DNS. And this machine is not in the domain. See, this is a Vagoro PC. Okay, so this are the network design and the basic configuration which is required to proceed with this lab. However, I will be putting a link in the description box. So each and everything like how to install Active Directory till assigning the pieces to domain, everything will be covered in the tutorial which I will be putting in the description box. Okay, moving on. So we will be creating a rule over here. If you remember, we have created a rule for LAN to WAN in our previous tutorial. Just let me give you the brief about this. The rule was created LAN to WAN without assigning it to any group. The action was accept, and we have check on the log firewall traffic to log the firewall traffic for this particular rule. The source was LAN. Then we have selected the source network and devices at IP host group where we have added two IP hosts, client PC1 and client PC2. The schedule time was all the time. Destination zone was WAN. Destination network was any. Services was as required for the internet, HTTP, HTTPS, and DNS. Web filtering, application filtering, IPS is not our area of interest, so we will not look much more into it. before we proceed with the configuration over here for the web authentication policies for the user based authentication firewall rule, there are some prerequisites that we need to configure first. Okay, we will come to the rules and policies later on. The first prerequisite is you need to add the services and authentication server. Since over here we will be authenticating using active directory user, so we need to add although we have create I mean integrated active directory server, but still we need to add that server into the authentication server list. So the first step is go to authentication. This was the server which we added and imported all the users in group, right? Now going to services, you will check this AD server box, okay, for firewall authentication method. And the next thing is you need a user portal authentication method also. By default, it is saying that such authentication method same as firewall, means same as like this. So whatever changes you will do over here, it will be reflected over here. For now, over here we have selected AD server and added to the authentication server. Over here we haven't done anything, but as soon as you apply, it will come here because by default it is saying that set as authentication method same as firewall. Okay, see, the AD server is added over here. At the same time, it is added over here. It has taken the setting from here. The next option is VPN. We are over here. We are not doing a VPN tutorial, so we will just leave this as it is. When we will be doing a VPN tutorial, and over there we will be authenticating user active directory. At that time, we will add the AD server for the authentication. As if now, we will leave it as it is. Administration authentication method as everything we will leave as it is. The last point, that is web policy section for unauthorized user. This is the thing which we will look. See guys, now over here let me explain you. Let's say for example 10.1.1.150 was the PC under domain. It was authenticated using a domain. Okay, so when you will try to access the internet through you can easily reach to the internet. But at the same time, when this PC 10.1.1.100, which is not authenticated, which is not logging through authentication user, at that time what will happen? The traffic will drop. It won't reach to the internet. So in case if you need this also to reach to the internet, not now, maybe in future or for some any reason, so there should be an option, right? When you are using a web authentication, or you can say when you are authenticating through a user, so there should be an option that even though this PC is not in the domain or not login through authenticated user, it should reach to the internet. So there comes a role of a captive portal. So as you have seen that you can have a firewall access rule that require authentication to access the internet or various network resources. Now if a user is trying to access a internet or a network resources, and their authentication through active directory or single sign-on or NTLM have failed, or they don't have any such authentication mechanism, then in that case captive portal allow the user to authenticate to the firewall and gain access to the internet or network resources. We will see this in the coming time. So in short, I would say that captive portal provides a last resort authentication method to the firewall. So going over here to the web authentication, and as it is saying over here, if you will see that if you want to configure web policy action for unauthenticated user, you should go to the web authentication. So in the same option over here, web authentication, you will go. If you will see that by default there is a configuration saying authorize authenticated user for web access. If active directory access is configured, the mechanism should be Kerberos and NTLM. This we will keep as default. But this is what we were looking. If ADSSO isn't configured, when unauthenticated user reaches a block page, then it should show a captive portal link. Okay, so this is checked and we will keep as it is. This is what we required actually for unauthenticated user. Then comes captive portal behavior. How your captive portal should behave. So these options again we will keep as default, that show user portal link, show web page after sign in, and so on. This is where we have to work on sign out users. Now over here it is saying that once the captive portal, through a captive portal you are login, what action should be taken? Like when a captive portal page is closed or redirected, sign out the user. So like let's say for example you were trying to log in. If you're not understanding a much lot, then when we will be doing a practical you will get a clear idea, but keep this mind whatever I am saying now. So when captive portal page is closed or redirected, like if you you try to log in, a captive page portal is closed, then sign out the user. Then you have an option that when user is inactive, you have to define a traffic flow that for 100 bytes in 1 minute, let's say for example, it means that the user is inactive and you should sign out. Or else you will say that once it is signed in, you should never sign out. These are the option. But over here we will go with when captive portal page is closed or redirected, sign out. Okay. And guys, we will verify each and every configuration. Don't worry about that. We will verify each and everything. Moving on, captive portal appearance. How you want your captive portal to appear for the user. Let me show you the default preview. This is basically a default preview for the, you will see for the when the captive portal is shown. But you can change this preview as per your requirement. Like you can add a logo over here by selecting a custom and choosing the logo file. You can change the layout, or even you can change the color as per your requirement. By default these are the color, but you can change the colors as well. Okay. This is the first prerequisite where we have added the authentication servers, and we have looked for the captive portal appearance and all. Okay. The second part which you want to look is going to administration over here from the left pane. Going to administration, go to device access. Our policy is being defined from LAN to WAN, so just check that on the LAN zone you have captive portal enabled, client authentication enabled. These both things are enabled. Yes, both things are enabled. So we will move on to the policy, the actual configuration which we are supposed to do. Okay, we will be using the same rule which we have configured last time, and I have explained you at the start, at the beginning itself, about this rule, how we have configured, so that those who are viewing this tutorial in between also will have an idea that we have configured this particular rule in the beginning of the tutorial. But for those who are viewing my tutorial from the beginning, from the first tutorial, they have a clear understanding why we created this, what we did, and everything. So this rule will be as it is, except the change what you will do is scrolling down and coming over here, you will check on the match known users. Over here you have option user or group. So this all are the users and groups and OUs from the AD. You can check all this form. Now I will keep it as any. And over here we were talking about the unknown users, unauthenticated users. You will check this box so that the unknown users will also get internet access, but they will be redirected to a captive portal. And if they have a username and password, then they can proceed further. So this is the change we have done on the policy, match known user, and you have said any use web authentication for unknown user, and you will save the configuration. Okay guys, so now the configuration is saved. Moving on, we will be trying to call an internet website, any of the website on the internet, and let's see what's the twist, if it works or whatever. Let's see. We'll call google.com, sign into the network. I have created multiple users on the Active Directory, and I'm using one of them. Let me show you. See, these were the users created. Okay, I'm using this user IT underscore admin. There are many users I have created, consultant, programmer, security admin. I'm using IT admin for now. Again, I will go to the client PC one and I will put the password over here. It is saying you that you are logged into the PC. So now you can browse google.com, you can browse other websites. Okay. Now moving on to the PC, client PC 2. I will open the browser over here. I will simply say google.com. And it is not reaching, right? It's not reaching. Okay. So this is a twist over here. And guys, whenever you are configuring user-based authentication and for the firewall rules, the maximum time the mistake is done over here. So just I will add a note that an unknown user trying to access the internet. See, this was a known user. Client PC1 was the known user. Client PC2 was the unknown user, right? This is not in the domain also. It is unknown user. So an unknown user trying to access the internet should be redirected to a captive portal, right? But what happened? It didn't work over there. So what is the reason? The reason is quite simple. On most networks, DNS settings are inherited on a WAN port from internet service provider. When you are blocking a WAN access for unknown user, they cannot reach the DNS server that is out on the WAN. Therefore, a user trying to access the internet where authentication is required will not be redirected to a captive portal. So, in order to overcome this issue, a separate firewall access rule that does not require authentication is needed for WAN DNS access. So, simply you will be creating a DNS rule over here, add a firewall rule above this rule, new firewall rule, and it should be above this rule. Okay, so I will give the name DNS rule, and I will place this on the top because, as I told you, this rule should be above this rule. Group none, action is accept. I will log the firewall traffic. Source zone is LAN. I will keep this any schedule for all the time. Destination zone I will say WAN. Once selected, destination network any services we require only DNS over here. As I told you, I will just select DNS over here, apply this, and the one more thing is I will be creating a link Nat rule. You all knows what we need to do. We have to change the Nat option to MASQ and save this Nat rule. Over here, I'm not interested in web filtering, application filtering, IPS and all. This is the rule which I have created. I will show you again. LAN, source zone is LAN, source network is any, schedule for all the time, destination is WAN, destination network is any, services is DNS, and I will simply save the configuration. Now the configuration is updated. Let me go to client PC2 now. Over here, I will try again calling google.com, and it is saying me to, this is the browser issue, or else it would have redirected directly. Let me just close the browser and turn it on again, open it again. Okay, okay, fine, it is okay now. So there is some issue with the browser itself, or else it would have redirected me directly. So okay, I'll click open network login page, and you can see the captive portal is over here. Now this user was the one which is not into the domain, unknown user. It is basically an unknown user for Sophos firewall, but still our requirement was that we should give access to internet access to this. So over here also you can do one more thing. We will use some other user. Let me go to active directory again, and let me find the user. Let's say IT consultant. Okay, on the PC2 I will try to log in through IT consultant. Okay, and I will put the password, sign in, and yes, it started to work. See, the internet is working now. Let me take you again to the firewall, and I just want to show you something. Come to the current activities. Now it means that everything is working. Before we do the monitoring part, one more thing that I told you, we have configured the captive portal setting like this, right? We said that sign out user when the captive portal page is closed or redirected. Let me close the page. Now your website is working, right? Let me refresh this. Okay, it's working absolutely fine. I will just close this page, and I will just try to log in again. See, again it is giving me this page. As I told you that we have defined over here, when captive portal page is closed or redirected, sign out the user. So it has sign out the user. So again I have to sign in, and the internet started to work. Okay. So just go to current activities over here. You will see the live user. Now, the IT underscore consultant is a user which is connected through the host IP 10.1.1.100, which was unknown, which was not in domain, which we have basically log in through some unknown user. Then through a captive portal, we try to log in. And IT underscore admin is the user through which we have logged in this machine 10.1.1.150, which was in the domain. Live connections, if you will see over here, it will give you the live connections also. From here, live connection for application is there. You will select the username. It will give you the username, and it will give you detail how much data is uploaded, download, transfer, and so on. Source IP address. This I'm just giving an overview. When we will be looking at the last tutorial or second last tutorial for logging monitoring, at that time I will be giving you a much detailed overview and everything about this definitely. So again, coming to the live user, even you can simply click on this and you can disconnect the user from here also. So let's see. This is IT consultant, right? Let me disconnect this IT underscore admin user. Disconnect. A very interesting thing over here. It is saying that message won't be sent to clientless users. Client over here we are authenticating using a web, not through any client. So if you are using a client, which we will be configuring in our coming tutorial, in the next tutorial, we will be authenticating through a client. At that time, you will see that you will get this message also that you have been disconnected by admin, or if you want to customize, you can customize this also. I will simply say disconnect. It is disconnect. It is not showing over here. Let me go over here. And you can see that internet is not working. Let me refresh this, or else I will just wait for some time. It is again asking me for the password. Anyhow, the internet is not working, which means the user has been signed out from here. I have to sign in again. This was the one thing. So guys, that was all about the user based authentication policy, the firewall rules and policy, which you will be creating user using a user using a AD user, you can say. So in the coming tutorial, in the next tutorial, what we are going to configure is we over here we have configured a policy using the AD user. In the coming tutorial, we will be creating a user within a Sophos XG firewall, and we will be authenticating the user for the internet access through the local user, that is Sophos XG firewall user. And moving on, we will be looking after the client concept also. Over here we have used a web authentication. In the next tutorial, we will be configuring a client authentication. However, the configuration will remain somehow same, but we will be installing a client into our workstation, and we will see how it works. That's all for this tutorial, and thanks for watching. See you in the next tutorial.